The moment Angela Brooks slid the last of her grocery money across the counter at a dusty roadside gas station, she had no idea that her quiet act of kindness would shake the ground beneath her life, or that the sound of dozens of engines would soon thunder down her street like fate itself finally arriving. The sun had been unforgiving that afternoon, baking the asphalt and her nerves alike, and all she could think about was getting home before dark to her small rented house with the peeling white fence and the roses she kept alive through sheer will. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the unseen power of doing good when no one is watching, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because this story begins exactly where most people would have turned away. Angela was 34. A black woman who had learned early that life rarely handed out favors without taking something in return. She worked double shifts as a home health aide, caring for people who had forgotten their own names, while struggling to keep hold of hers. Bills sat in uneven stacks on her kitchen table, and each month felt like a careful balancing act between rent, food, and the old sedan that groaned every time she turned the key. That afternoon, she had stopped for gas with just enough money to make it through the week, her mind heavy with worries she never shared with anyone. That was when she noticed the man behind her in line, tall and broad, his arms a canvas of inked stories, a black leather vest with the unmistakable Hell's Angels patch stitched across the back. The cashier hesitated, the air thick with judgment and caution, and Angela saw the moment when the man realized his card wasn't going through, the quiet frustration tightening his jaw. Most people looked away. Angela didn't. She felt the familiar pull between fear and compassion, the kind she had wrestled with her entire life. She remembered her mother telling her that kindness wasn't about who deserved it, but about who needed it. Without a word, she stepped forward and paid for the gas, ignoring the way her heart pounded as if she had crossed an invisible line. The biker, whose name was later revealed to be Marcus Kane, looked at her with something like surprise, then something deeper, something wounded and grateful all at once. She left before the weight of the moment could settle, driving away with a tank half full and a wallet nearly empty, convincing herself it was just another small sacrifice in a life full of them. That night, Angela lay awake listening to the distant sounds of the city, wondering if she had been foolish or brave, and deciding it didn't matter either way. She had done what felt right, and that had to be enough. The next morning came with its usual routine, coffee brewed too weak, shoes worn thin, and the quiet dignity of getting up even when everything in her wanted to stay down. She went to work, helped an elderly man remember how to button his shirt, smiled when her feet ached, and came home exhausted, unaware that the universe was already rearranging itself around her small act. The following afternoon, as the sun dipped low and painted the street in gold, Angela heard a sound that didn't belong. It started as a distant rumble, then grew into a chorus of engines, deep and relentless, vibrating through her chest and into her bones. She stepped onto her porch, her breath catching as she saw them, dozens of motorcycles rolling down her quiet street, chrome flashing, leather-clad riders moving like a single living force. Neighbors peeked through curtains, fear and curiosity mixing in the air, and Angela felt her knees weaken as the group came to a slow, deliberate stop in front of her house. At the front was Marcus Kane, his presence calm and commanding, his eyes finding Angela as if she were the only person there. The bikers dismounted one by one, the sound of engines dying replaced by a heavy silence that seemed to hold the entire block hostage. Angela's mind raced with every worst-case scenario she had ever been taught to fear, every story she had heard about men like these, and yet something deep inside her stayed still. She remembered the look on Marcus's face at the gas station, the way gratitude had softened him, and she held on to that memory like a lifeline. What followed wasn't chaos or danger, but something far more powerful. Marcus explained, not with words spoken aloud here, but with actions that unfolded slowly and deliberately, that Angela's kindness had reached further than she could imagine. He told his brothers about the woman who saw him not as a symbol or a threat, but as a human being stranded and frustrated, and they had decided together that such kindness deserved to be honored. The bikers began to move, not toward her door in menace, but around her yard, repairing the broken fence, fixing the sagging porch step, tending to the neglected lawn with surprising care. One of them left a small envelope on her table, enough money to cover her bills for months. Another quietly arranged for her car to be repaired by a friend who owed them a favor. Angela stood in the middle of it all, tears blurring her vision, overwhelmed by the realization that her single moment of compassion had rippled outward, touching lives she would never fully know. The neighbors watched as fear turned into awe, and whispers replaced assumptions. For the first time in a long while, Angela felt seen, not for her struggles or her skin, but for her heart. The bikers didn't stay long, leaving behind the hum of engines fading into the distance and a sense that something sacred had passed through her life. In the days that followed, Angela felt lighter. She slept better, smiled more, and found herself believing again in the quiet goodness of people. She understood that kindness wasn't weak or naive, but strong enough to disarm fear and bridge worlds that seemed impossibly far apart. Her story spread, not as a legend, but as a reminder that humanity often shows up where we least expect it. If this story reached something tender inside you, if it reminded you of a time when kindness changed your life or someone else's, please take a moment now to like this video, share it, and subscribe, because your engagement helps keep stories like this alive and reaching hearts that need them. And before this story ends, leave a comment telling us what this moment taught you about compassion, because your words matter more than you know. Angela still passes that gas station sometimes, still carries less money than she deserves, and still chooses kindness whenever she can. And somewhere out there, a group of bikers rides with the quiet knowledge that one woman's courage reminded them of their own humanity, proving that even the smallest act can echo louder than fear, and love, when given freely, always finds its way home.